Hey YouTube, how you doing? So today we're actually gonna make one of my favorite dishes. It is Pomodoro, right? So I've got a recipe that I use for myself. It's a real classic recipe. It's real simple. There's nothing to it. It's a real bright and you know, overly tasty like dish. Like so, ultimately, you know, it's really good. It's kind of low calorie. It's really healthy. It doesn't have any meat in it, and it's just good. I don't know, I mean, like, I'm really excited to make it just because it's something that I used to make often at the country club, and now I'm gonna start making it for you guys. So let's go ahead and get started.
You haven't even edited the other one, right?
I think I'm gonna get some fresh basil. So this is actually quite a bit. I don't know how much this is. It's $4.28. If I find something different, I might get something different, but for now this should do. Though this looks like it has some black spots on it, so I'm probably gonna get a different one. Look, and I may even bring that one to the attention of the grocery store. So we're gonna go with Roma tomatoes because one, they're a little cheaper than like your salad tomatoes or the large tomatoes, the vine tomatoes, and because we're gonna be cooking them, I don't think it really matters like whether they're a little bit bigger or you're getting bigger slices. So we're gonna pick some out. I'm gonna basically look to make sure that they don't have like any bruises or any kind of like blemishes on them, and that they've got maybe just a little bit of yellow, just because they'll be easier to slice. So let's see how she did on the poundage. Wah, wah, wah. I need just one bulb of garlic. That should be plenty. Garlic's very strong. I don't need it to be overwhelming. Is it all intact? Does it look good?
Yeah.
Nice. Go ahead and put it in the basket. So now we're gonna get capellini pasta, aka angel hair pasta. What is that? Guilty pleasures. Alright, so for this simple recipe, we're going to go ahead and just start by prepping everything so that way when we get to the cooking process, we don't have to come back to it. There's only 3 ingredients for this, you know, minus the seasonings, of course, but 3 main ingredients that we're going to put into this. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the tomatoes. Now, I want to try and use as much as the tomato as possible. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and core and hull the tomatoes out. Now, if you have a core, it'll make it a whole lot easier to do. Being as that I don't actually have a core, I'm just going to use a smaller knife to cut around and to core the tomatoes out. Now, you can just take like a small, like I said, either a paring knife or just any kind of little serrated knife, and you can cut around the inside of it and it'll pop out, right? So then you've taken the core out of the tomato, and you can do that all the way around on all of these. So you just cut like a small hole and then pull it out. So what I do is just put it into the side and just kind of put my thumb in the middle and twist all the way around, and then you can pull that core out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that to the rest of these, and then we'll get started with dicing them. All right, now that we've got everything cored out, we're gonna go ahead and start by dicing them. I'm gonna leave them as kind of like a medium dice, anywhere from a half an inch to a quarter of an inch. And in order to do that, I'm not actually gonna make any like major cuts. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna split this tomato from the top end here, like kind of butt end, into 3 pieces, right? So it's gonna give me these 3 slices like that. Then what I'm gonna do is just cut that into 3, and then I'm going to cut across about 4 times, or cut across about 3 times into 4 pieces, right? So these are relatively like almost like salad dices, nothing too small, because when you cook them you still want them to kind of retain their shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the rest of these, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do with the garlic and the basil. Now that we've got these all diced, we're going to go ahead and get them put into our bowl. Now I want to try and retain as much of the juice as possible. So I want to do my chopping relatively quickly. If you need to somehow stop in the middle just so that you can make sure and get as much of the juice as possible. Now you see a lot of this juice is left on the cutting board. I'm going to do my best to kind of pick it up and put it into the bowl. You can even pick up the cutting board and kind of move it over there. All right, so now we're gonna start with our bowl of garlic. So I'm just gonna start by kind of peeling this outer layer off. You can do multiple things. I know a lot of people just kind of like push it on the cutting board, or they might tap it with their knife or something like that. And we can kind of pull a few cloves out that we're gonna need. So what I like to do as far as like peeling garlic, I like to start by taking the kind of the top end of it and pulling back all the little fibers. So you can kind of start at that butt end, take your knife and kind of pull it from the end part and pull it down. This is the easiest way that I know of to pull or peel garlic. Now you could already buy it like pre-peeled and even pre-sliced. It just depends on what your your skill level is at, or how much time you actually have to make this this dish. Though I don't mind actually like peeling it and getting all of it off. Right, so now that I've got that peeled, I'm gonna go ahead and peel the rest of it, and I'll show you guys how we're gonna slice them. Alright, now that we've got all these peeled, we're going to go ahead and slice them thin. Now, you notice that like at one end of the garlic it has the kind of like stub part, or the harder part that was holding it together. I'm going to start at the opposite end and leave that left after I'm done slicing. So I like to kind of slice them at an angle from the bottom. Like you'll notice that they kind of point down at a peak here. I know it's kind of hard to see on there, but you'll notice that they kind of point up. I'll start with the knife kind of cutting at an angle and then kind of going around. So I'm going to start by just slicing as thin as I possibly can. Now I do this by using the knuckles of my hand, by pushing that up against the knife and kind of guiding the knife as such. So that way I don't ever actually get close to my fingers. The knife's going to push into my knuckles before it even hits my fingers. Alright, so I've got some nice thin slices of garlic, and I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest. Okay, now that we've got all that sliced, we're going to go ahead and just kind of leave it off to the side, and and we're going to work on the basil. I only used about 5 cloves because garlic is very strong and we don't have a large amount of tomatoes, and it'll overpower it. Same with the basil. Now this bag is pretty big. I don't think that we're going to need all of it. I'm going to grab probably just a small handful, and I'm going to break all of the leaves off and bunch them together. Now after I break them off, I'm going to go ahead and rinse them off, just to make sure that we get anything that might be on there off of them. but I don't really need the stems. I only need the leaf part of it. Now you'll notice that basil has like a very strong smell to it. You kind of want to make sure and stay away from even the leaves that have a little bit of that black part in it. I'm going to show you guys how to cut this so that way it stays that nice color throughout the whole cooking process. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse these off. Now that I got them rinsed off, I'm going to go ahead and dry them as much as I can just to make them easier to cut. I'll just use a small paper towel. I don't need them to be super dry, but I also don't want them to have any issues as I'm cutting them. So I'm going to go ahead and restack them back up. Now, this is what's referred to as a chiffonade cut. So basically what you're going to do is, now that you got all your leaves stacked, you're going to roll them. And you're going to roll them from the top end all the way down as tight as you can roll them. Right? And now that you got them rolled, you're going to go ahead and lay it flat on the board, and you're going to start from the side, and you're going to cut as thinly as you possibly can. Like I said, keep in mind that you use your knuckle of your hand to kind of guide the knife. And when you cut it this way, and you cut it with the grain going this way on the leaf, you can ensure that you don't actually bruise the basil, and you don't end up with any of those like kind of black spots on it. If you try and chop it any other way, it's going to discolor, and it's not going to look very good in your dish. And it might kind of alter the flavor of it altogether. Alright, so you'll notice that it's kind of thin strips all the way around, and we kept from bruising the basil. So now that we've got everything prepped and off to the side, we're going to go ahead and start with the cooking process of this. Alright, we're going to start by making our sauce first. So I've got just a non-stick skillet, and I've got it set to medium on mine. Now I've got those bigger burners, so medium's got to be pretty hot even for me. I would say though, at home you could probably run with 6, 7. You just got to make sure that you keep an eye on the garlic as it's cooking. So we're just going to put a little bit of vegetable oil in there. And wait for it to kind of get hot in the pan. And then we're going to go ahead and add our garlic. Now, as we're cooking the garlic, we're really looking for it just to get fragrant and for you to start smelling it. We don't want it to burn. So not more than a minute, and about as little as 30 seconds. You'll notice that it's starting to burn when you see it turning like really dark brown. I can already start to smell the garlic. It didn't take very long. Again, we're not looking for it to burn. It'll give it an odd flavor to the sauce if you do allow it to burn. So now that I've already started to smell it being fragrant, again, it didn't take very long. We're going to let it go just for about 30 seconds. It's got a little browning to it. We're going to go ahead and add in the tomatoes. So we're going to add the tomatoes in and all of their juices. We're going to make sure we stir that. Get it all incorporated. Now, we're going to start by going ahead and putting our seasonings in. I'm not actually going to overwhelm this with too much seasoning. I want it to have a nice simple flavor to it. So I'm going to do a teaspoon of salt. Right. We're going to do a teaspoon of pepper. And we're going to do a teaspoon of sugar. Like I said, nothing too over the top as far as seasonings go, just enough to kind of brighten the flavors of the tomatoes that we're already putting in there. Now, this is kind of best when tomatoes are in season, right? Granted though, with current food production and the way that we make food, you can kind of get tomatoes anytime. But a big thing that this was made for, or was originally created for, was to kind of embrace tomato season and when tomatoes were most ripe. So now that we've got it kind of cooking, We got everything incorporated in it. We're gonna go ahead and let it kind of simmer for about 10 minutes or so until you start to see it thicken and the tomatoes kind of break down. So while that's doing that, we're gonna go ahead and cook our pasta. So I've already started a pan of water. It's just salted water, and we're gonna cook the angel hair pasta. Now, I'm gonna look on the instructions. It kind of tells you that this pasta needs to be cooked for 6 to 7 minutes. I'm gonna purposely cook it for about 5 minutes, just so that pasta still has a little bit of bite. I think dishes overall are a lot better when you cook the pasta to al dente versus fully cooking it through, especially because it's gonna cook a little bit more even when it comes out of the water, and it'll allow it to still kind of hold its shape a little bit better. So we're gonna go ahead and just get this into the water, and like I said, we'll let it cook for about 5 minutes. So now that the pasta's finished, we're gonna go ahead and take it out of the water and set it aside and continue working on our sauce. So now you're starting to see that our sauce is getting thicker and the tomatoes are starting to break down. So just gonna kind of give it a little bit of stir. And at this point, it's been cooking for about 5 minutes. Overall, we're only gonna let it cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. So 5 minutes into it, I'll go ahead and like I said, just give it a stir and let it simmer some more. So we'll check back on it in about another 5 minutes. All right, so now that we've let it cook for about another 5 minutes, you'll notice that it's really starting to kind of homogenize and look whole together, but you can still see the whole pieces of tomato, which is what ultimately we're looking for. I'm gonna go ahead and reduce the heat down on mine to about 3. And I'm gonna add some of this basil in. Now, I'm not gonna use all of it because some of it I'm gonna use as a garnish on the plate. So we'll kind of just, now we'll start to stir that in. And now we'll just let it cook for about another 5 minutes or so and let that basil flavor kind of incorporate its way into the sauce. All right, so now that we've let it cook for about another 5 minutes, we really got the consistency that we're looking for. We don't want it to cook too long to where it turns to a deep red, right? We're not making like a traditional tomato sauce or like a spaghetti sauce or things like that. We still want it to have its bright flavor. It's gotten to the thickness that I want it, and now the basil's had a chance to kind of incorporate its way into it. So we're gonna go ahead and start by plating it now. All right, so this is really simple to plate. We'll go ahead and just take some of our noodles here and kind of twist them onto the plate. Nothing too crazy, just kind of there on the top part, in the middle part of the plate. All right, and then we will spoon some of our Pomodoro sauce on top of it. And then we can kind of garnish with a little bit of fresh basil. Very simple, easy dish, very light, and has a huge bold flavor to it. So I think overall it came out really good. We got the consistency that we wanted in the tomato sauce, and we got a really nice presentation when it comes to the end product. Thank you guys for viewing my recipe video or my demo on making Pomodoro sauce. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please push the like button. Also, if you're looking for more recipes or more vlogs by me, please push the subscribe button.